What do you think necessitated INEC to take such a decision?
Well, I can't say much rather than to quote the chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission that this election, the scheduled election, is postponed on account of challenges relating to logistics. But let me also add that this issue of logistics is a very complex one. It should have been explained further so that Nigerians will come to terms with the difficulties INEC is facing, is confronted with in its bid to organize transparent, credible, and fair elections. Let me mention that INEC is an agency that is deemed to be independent, but its independence does not preclude its interdependence with other agencies. For instance, it needs the approval of the National Assembly for whatever it demanded in terms of funding for it to be appropriated. And this, we remember, took a very long time before the National Assembly could appropriate funds required by INEC to organize the elections in 2019. Secondly, even when these funds are appropriated, it also takes another stride on the part of the executive agencies concerned, the Ministry of Finance, for instance, the Office of Accountant General, to ensure timely disbursement of the funds that are required by INEC to conduct its activities bit after bit.
Okay, Prof, as an analyst who have been following developmental issues in the country, including political issues, did you foresaw such postponement before it happened?
Well, I think Premium Times online newspaper already said elections would be postponed. Okay. They said it since yesterday. Okay. They said it would be postponed. The only thing was they did not know for how long, but certainly they affirmed that it would be postponed.
So before then, did you have that in mind, or you only had it when you saw it on Premium Times?
Well, exactly. I think when I saw happenings in southeastern part of Nigeria, where they said some INEC offices were set ablaze, and I saw it in the Plateau State, then I knew that things were no more the same.
What makes it a common topic of discussion across the nation?
Well, because it affects every aspect of our life. Okay. It affects every aspect of our life. It affects everybody, irrespective of your religion, your tribe. Because here we are talking of governance. We are talking of time. It is time after 4 years for people to renew the mandate. And others again who may be coming as new, and others who also may not be able to secure the renewal of the mandate. So you see, it affects even our economy. It affects our culture. It affects our politics, our religion, everything. So it has to be a common topic, irrespective of where you come from. Yes.
Doctor, this kind of postponement came in Nigeria and happened in 2011, 2015, and now 2019. Why is it becoming more prevalent in the country?
Well, unfortunately and sadly, history is terribly repeating itself.
Okay.
But what I would say is that we ought to have learned from our previous lessons. We had this postponement in 2011 on account of logistics. People are already in the polling unit, have started casting their votes, only for INEC to announce the postponement, the cancellation of the already the votes already cast, and also reschedule the elections a week after. And we also had this similar occurrence in 2015, but slightly different from the experience of 2011, because at that time we were all happy that we have outgrown the challenge of 2011. Now it is the government itself that is raising concerns that has to do with security. That no security in three northeastern states, and therefore it could not guarantee the conduct of election in those 3 states. And therefore it needed more time. The Office of the National Security Advisor requested that it need more time to actually get those places secure and ready for elections. Then we are done with that. And sadly we are coming to experience something similar to what has happened in 2011. That is the painful aspect of it. But let me mention that people are really on the neck of INEC, that it didn't do well, that it has actually eroded the confidence reposed on it. But we should also remember that as an agency, it is also dependent, its functioning and the level of its efficiency is a function of the conduct of other agencies and other institutions around it.
Okay.
For instance, they cannot secure materials.
Okay.
They have to deposit it in another institution. They also have to rely on other agencies for transportation of those materials from various points to very distant locations, to difficult terrains that, of course, they need to make those arrangements. But of course, even when these arrangements are made, it all takes the patriotic nature of those that are involved to get those things done. But what INEC needed to do is to be very open and transparent. But even then, INEC is also have reservations and concerns. Those openness and transparency could also create avenues for partisan penetration.
Prof, while the doctor was quoting what INEC national chairman was saying while postponing the elections, he said what the INEC chairman said was inadequate. He should have went beyond that. Do you think such failure to come beyond to have come beyond such can undermine the trust between the INEC and the public? In how?
I think he raised the question and he also answered the question.
Okay.
Here is a country where you become very, very careful and very sensitive with the kind of information you give out.
Okay.
For every information you give out, there is somebody who is ready to exploit that for his own personal gain. So you also have to be very careful. It is like issues you keep on finding with the security. Sometimes that's why they keep on fighting with the media, that you go into much details about the terrorists. And the more details you give, the more you endanger the lives of our security people and the lives of our people. So even INEC itself, he needs really to give information, more information than what that he was able to give. But the issue is, the sabotage is always there. Unless we become more and more patriotic, that we know we are trying to serve our country, we are trying to serve our people, that we can sacrifice our life for our country. It is when we are able to begin to feel that, then we really are ready for every information. But even in developed countries, even in places like America, not all information are given out.
Okay, Prof, the doctor mentioned that even INEC itself as an independent body cannot secure its property, but can depend on another institution to do such for it. How can we go beyond such type of limitations?
Can it create its own military, its own police? Can it create its own stronger places where they can keep their materials? They cannot. They rely, can it buy its own aeroplanes? No. So they have to rely on CBN. They have to rely on transportation, sometimes Road Transport Authority and the others.
Okay.
They also have to rely on media to inform people. They have to rely on this and this. So you can see nobody is independent. It is called independent, but certainly in services nobody is independent.
Doctor, what did the Constitution say about the right of the INEC to postpone the election?
Well, of course, the Constitution is very clear. It has the power to organize and conduct elections.
Okay.
Therefore, this organization and conduct of election includes even the power to postpone it. If there is no opportunity for it to conduct credible, fair, transparent, and violent-free elections. So the powers of INEC are wholesome as far as elections are concerned. Unless there are contestations about electoral disputes, about even the right to be on the ballot, about the crisis between and among politicians and between politicians and INEC, that is where the matter of adjudication will come on the part of the judiciary to settle the matter. But the powers to postpone election lies squarely with the Independent National Electoral Commission. Even when there was debate as to the sequence of election, this matter was taken to court because the National Assembly reordered the sequence of election, and INEC challenged its powers to do that. The matter was taken to court, and the court actually decided that INEC had the right to actually organize or to arrange the sequence of elections. So you could now see that even the Parliament, which have the power to enact law, including the power to repeal the act established in INEC, there are certain responsibilities that are of exclusive preserve to INEC. So nobody can postpone election. So when the government of Jonathan in 2015 wanted elections to be postponed. He didn't go to media, not even the National Security Advisor, not even any of his official in government will go to the media and announce that there was postponement of election. It has to pressure the INEC, it has to convince INEC, it has to convince the international community that there is need for those postponements, and unless the Independent National Electoral Commission agrees with the government, that was only when the 2015 elections were postponed.
Prof, why is it always during election times and the campaign times there is mistrust and the conflict of interests between politicians, INEC, and the other stakeholders in the exercise?
It is because our politicians take politics election to be a do-or-die affair. That's the reason. So they can exercise any amount of pressure you can think on INEC. They can use all the resources they have to make sure that they win elections. So this is why every time you have this, and the real base of all this is their concept of governance, their understanding of governance is wrong. Their understanding is, I win election, food is ready on the table, I will invite my friends to eat. By the time you understand that, you want to write your name in gold. You are serving, you want to leave good history for yourself, for your family, for your friends, then you know it is a service. But the understanding of our politicians and the practice of politics is, it is a way of enrichment. Therefore, they can do anything. It's a matter of do or die. If they lose, they feel they lose everything. Some of them prefer to die. So that's why when it is time, you can imagine, we have about 70 parties contesting presidential election. So you can just imagine what the ballot paper will be, 70 of them. Then you can half of them at any time getting court injunctions. Even after printing the ballot papers, INEC will have to be faced with court injunctions. Drop this, print this. So you have to do away with all these papers. Then you move forward. Another party will say, we have today dismissed so-so-so our presidential candidate. We have today aligned with the presidential candidate of so-so-so party. It's not politics, it's not governance. The understanding is eat, and eat for yourself alone. When we begin to understand that this is our country, this is our state, this is our local government, we have to serve our people. I believe the tension, the kind of tension we have, the kind of pressure we have on INEC. See, what sense does it make for people to go and burn down the INEC office with all the card readers and all the other materials? What sense? Why? What sense is it? You are going on campaign. You carry young people carrying cutlasses. And when they enter a town, they burn down all the superstores. Why?
Doctor, do you see solution in the near future to all these problems mentioned by the
These are trying times, and we have to live to learn from these experiences. Exactly. We have to grow above this. And I think it's good it's happening now. Now we have to take stock of what has happened and what is happening. And we need to really enact laws that will really give remedies to the. We have to really be very, very strong in our regulation of our institutions. We have to create strong institutions beyond individuals. I mean, our challenge has always been that we have strong individuals with weak institutions.
Weak institutions.
So these institutions needed to be strengthened, and the strengthening of these institutions will help us to a very large extent. The military and the other security agencies must learn to serve the people, the public, not the government of the day. The government will come and it will go. I mean, INEC will have to have it at the back of their mind that this is service to the nation, and the nation count on the. During elections, no institution is as important as INEC. Not even the institution of the presidency, not even the institution of the parliament is as important as INEC, because INEC determines the fate and the destiny of those who will be entrusted with the position to govern the country. And therefore, the livelihood of the entire nation now is in the hands of the Independent National Electoral Commission. And such a burden, which is a big one, INEC must grow to carry that burden on its own neck.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Yes.
The postponement has now left political parties, the major ones, PDP and the APC, pushing blames to each other. Why?
That is what they know best. Sincerely. Because create confusion, smash everything, and just run away without waiting to clear it. That's how they are. That's how they are, instead of thinking of how do we move forward. Both the parties, no exception. It's not only PDP, it's not only APC, both of them, no exception. Instead of thinking, look, they are the ones responsible for the situation we find ourselves. They have created the mess, and they have no regret. They are not ready to apologize. But one day will arrive there when both of them will be kicked out.
Doctor, are they supposed to have behaved as such? If no, why not? And if yes, why yes?
They shouldn't have behaved that way. You know, they shouldn't have traded blames between themselves. They are the greatest party, they are the biggest party. They should show some sense of patriotism and come to the terms as to whether or not INEC have good reasons to actually cancel these elections. And they have to accept it in good faith and encourage INEC as an institution that is independent to continue with its own plans and to help it douse the tension, not to actually increase the tension and the pressure on INEC. Remember, this scenario that is created today was caused, just as Prof said, largely by the conduct of these two major political parties.
Yes.
What is the gain of people burning down a whole INEC office in 2-3 states?
Exactly.
This must be done. This is a partisan crime, no doubt about it. It's a crime that is partisan in nature, and one of these two parties will have to take the blame. Engineer it. So why, for instance, if you talk about frustration or leakages, it has to do with these two major parties. So they created these scenarios and they are trading blames between themselves. But Nigerians need to calm down, study the situation, learn from this mess, and learn to punish individuals, groups, and platforms that mess up with the future of Nigeria.
Prof,
Yes.
postponement of 2019 general election is now history. What impact do you think it will make in the eyes of foreign observers currently in the country and the international community?
Well, even foreign observers have their own problems in their own countries.
Okay.
We all know that.
Okay.
So they have to appreciate our own difficulties here, and so on and so forth. They understand.
Okay.
We know where they come from. We know some of the problems they are having. Up to now, America is still struggling with the issue of saying Russia was involved in their last election. So they all have their shortcomings, they have their plus. So I think they understand what we are doing. The most important is, as Nigerians, we should say this is enough, this should not repeat itself. We should learn from history of what happened previously and make sure that we improve on this. Every one of us, including the political parties, should examine what role have we played in causing the present postponement of the election, and learn to make sure that we are not going to do that again for the sake of our country, for the sake of our nation. That is what is most important.
Okay, Doctor, as a political scientist who have been following political history of Nigeria from independence to date, and even before independence, I believe you have a cue on that. How can INEC avoid future occurrence of this postponement of elections?
Well, it has to strengthen itself as an institution. It has to build the capacity of its own manpower. It has to increase its own capacity in terms of equipment, in terms of material. It has to also assert its independence in terms of having access to required resources in good time to organize itself. It has to build capacity on the part of its own personnel, and it has to also learn to shock, to be vulnerable, not to be vulnerable to shocks, to political shocks. So that independence that is a qualifier of its own name should actually be thinned to. And they also have to create very good working relationship with the agencies that they rely on in the conduct of elections. And they also have to build that trust and confidence with the people. Let the people be ardent supporter of INEC, not supporter of any political party. Let the public have trust and confidence. Let it do a number of things, a myriad of activities and programs and projects that will build confidence in the minds of Nigerians, so that in whatever difficult situation it finds itself, it has the support of the people, and therefore the people will rely on it, and therefore it will actually discard any partisan affiliation and support this national institution who have the fate and the destiny of the people as far as governance and politics is concerned.
Okay. Comparing Nigeria with other nations across the world, Prof, do you think it's possible for INEC to achieve this?
It's possible for INEC to achieve this with the support of Nigerians, with the support of all the other institutions that are related to INEC. It's possible to achieve this.
Doctor, are Nigerians ready to support INEC to achieve this?
They are ready to do that if they have seen readiness on the part of the INEC to be neutral, to be truly independent, and to be committed to the national cause of organizing free, fair, credible, and transparent elections. That will win the confidence and the trust of the people on the INEC, and INEC will be truly independent, so that nothing within the law will INEC do, and the government or any other political party outside government will even dream of interfering or influencing its action in one way or in another way.
Prof, what do you think is lacking on the side of Nigerian public in general?
Education.
That makes this scenario to be happening and repeating itself.
Education and the patriotism. Okay. People get divided along our tribal lines. Okay. Where you come from, who is occupying which office. Okay. It is one that feeling of materialism, that it is our son, our brother who is there, and we are going to eat at the eat. When that feeling is not there, when you feel it is our brother, we want him to make history so that he can be remembered for his contributions. That will be better for our country.
Selfishness and overzealousness, Doctor, can it be avoided?
It can be avoided in place of patriotism.
Okay.
That is why America is the greatest nation on earth today. That's why the European countries are doing well. That's why the Asian tigers are coming up. The citizens are very resolute about nation building generally. So that commitment, that shared commitment on the part of the people to build their own nation. Government can build a nation for you, but people do, because people control government, particularly in democracy. And therefore, the way the public behave will be the same way people in government or officials in government will behave. If the government are resolute and organized, and in the line of patriotism and nationalism, those lines dividing them, or the lines that politicians are using to divide them, will actually disappear.
Okay, Prof, can we say that the integrity of INEC is at stake by this postponement?
Well, it depends on what we are going to see next week and the rest of the elections.
Okay.
The chairman of INEC in 2011, who postponed while we were on the queue, was hailed in 2015 because of his own performance. So still INEC can have a credible, free, fair election, and I'm sure they will be able to recover their own.
Lastly, what can you say, Doctor?
The INEC need to be more open, more transparent. They need to actually build the confidence of the people. They have to win the trust of the people for it to have the support of the people to organize credible elections come 23rd April and the 9th of March. We hope that by 9th of March, Nigerians all over the country will celebrate a violent, free, credible, transparent, and fair elections. And the whole world will live to congratulate Nigeria for the milestone achieved.
Briefly, Prof, what is your hope?
My hope is to see a free, fair, credible election next week and also second week of March.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prof, for coming. Thank you, Doctor. Well, thank you for coming. Well, viewers, that is discussion on the postponement of the 2019 general elections by the Independent National Electoral Commission. To meet next week for another discussion. Thank you very much. And you can send us your opinion on our services and the programs to enable us to be better. And remember, Sokoto is a peaceful state. Maintain its peaceful nature. Be security conscious and report any suspicious activity to the appropriate authorities for necessary actions. Thank you for watching. Remain blessed.
Well done.